Alright, so this Knife Thoughts video is going to be on this knife. This is the Northwoods Knives Ocoee Jack in Tractor Green Jigged Bone. And Northwoods Knives is a brand that's been owned by KnivesShipFree for a while now. Originally, some of the knives, or most of the knives, were being made by Queen, even after KnivesShipFree owned the brand. But even a few years before Queen's closing, they transitioned to pretty much all of the knives, or at least all of the folding knives, being made by Gradation Cutlery. And that's the case on this one. So this is a Gradation Cutlery made knife. It is the Ocoee Jack, and when I saw this name, I certainly didn't know how to pronounce it, but it's actually really phonetic. So it's just Ocoee and then Jack. And it's named after a river in Tennessee that's nearby where KnivesShipFree has moved to relatively recently, maybe a year ago or something. So named after a local river, and apparently there's also a town in Florida with the same name that might be pronounced slightly differently, so that makes it a little confusing. But this is definitely the Ocoee Jack, and they send these knives a little differently. They ship or package them a little differently than Gradation Cutlery knives. You can see it doesn't come in a tube like a Gradation Cutlery knife would, like something like this, but rather in a bag. And I'm not sure why the reason for that is. They are able to ship them in an envelope rather than a box, but they also ship them with a pocket slip, as you can see. So this is a pretty nice leather pocket slip. Over the years, they've had different versions of the pocket slip that the knives ship with. They had one that had a fold over top for a while, and different kinds. This one is actually new. I think that I got one on the last run that was different than this, or at least the last run that I bought a knife from. And I think this is a nice pocket slip, so that's a nice little touch. And they've been doing recently, KnivesShipFree, that you get a free pocket slip with any Gradation Cutlery knife that you buy. So that's a nice touch, definitely. The other thing that they come with, they usually come with a sticker. This is like a kind of a Krispy Kreme-esque sticker here. So I like stickers, so it's nice to get a sticker. And then recently, or I guess for a few years now, they've been coming with a pocket coin. So you can see it says Northwoods. I'm not exactly sure. That actually looks like a Jared Oser design. But Northwoods pocket coin, I think it's copper. Just an extra little touch to it. But it's definitely a different way to ship them. And it's something that differentiates the Northwoods knives from the regular Gradation Cutlery runs. With that said, let's actually get the knife out here. With that said, they usually do coincide with the frame or pattern being made by Gradation Cutlery. So this is the Ocoee Jack, and it is on Gradation Cutlery's 92 frame. So what Gradation Cutlery's 92 frame is a Eureka Jack. So it's a serpentine dogleg with a backspring swell. Might be forgetting the exact name of that there, but if you want more information on this pattern, I have a video on the 92 in Sandbar Stag, so definitely check that out. But it's based on that frame. It is that frame, but it has a different blade configuration than the normal 92. The normal 92 has a spear blade and a coping secondary. Now, with that said, Gradation Cutlery has done a 92 with a single blade. They did what they called the Talon and another one, but the Talon was the single blade Wharncliffe. So I actually had one of those also in green bone and liked it. I had won it in a giveaway, I believe, but stupidly got rid of it. So that was a big part of the reason why I wanted to get this, is that Gradation Cutlery had made, and I had another single blade 92 with a Wharncliffe main blade. Now, of course, and I'll show you, an example here, but the Wharncliffe was different on the Gradation Cutlery version because it wasn't what they call bone cliff. So they call it that, not B-O-N-E, but B-O-H-N. Maybe there's an E at the end. I think not. But they call it that in honor of Derek Bone, who was the founder of KnivesShipFree, who unfortunately passed away relatively recently and unexpectedly. And they call it that because this is a blade shape with the saber grind, so it's not a full flat grind like most Gradation Cutlery knives, that Derek put on a lot of the Northwoods knives. So kind of became associated with Derek Bone of KnivesShipFree. And it is a different blade shape, so I will show. So this is another Gradation Cutlery. This is the 06 Pemberton pattern. It is a single blade Wharncliffe, and you can see the difference here. So first off, generally, Gradation Cutlery's Wharncliffe blades have a little bit more gradual of a curve from the tip to the straight part of the spine. So the Bonecliffe is a little bit more towards a sheepfoot, where the sheepfoot has a very abrupt turn. But it's definitely not a sheepfoot. It's just more towards it in the sense that that curve is a little bit less. So definitely an interesting blade shape and different than the blade shape that was on the 92 Talon. Now, some people like the Bonecliffe, some people don't. I like it. I think that it's a good blade shape for, pull cuts and things like that. Some people don't like saber grinds, but I do like saber grinds. I don't think that it makes a huge difference. If you can see, sometimes it does make a difference. Let's see if we can. My phone's not very good at focusing, but sometimes it does make it a little bit less thin of a grind so that it slices not quite as well through things like cardboard and stuff. But I think in general it's a fine using grind. There are a lot of vintage and older knives with saber grinds. And I like the drawn swedge here on the top also. So you can see that it's a drawn swedge versus a cut swedge. Cut swedge drops straight in, whereas a drawn swedge is gradually pulled in. So I do like the Bonecliffe, and it makes it interesting. Now, like I said, they do a lot of knives with these, Wharncliffe blades. They've done a lot recently, but over this year, I posted about that, and someone pointed out that they've done drop points, spear points, maybe even a clip point recently also. So it's not like they only do this blade shape, and if you're not a big fan of it, there are other Northwoods knives to be had. Speaking of that, these sold out really quickly, like pretty much all Northwoods pocket knives. So keep in mind, if you really like this setup, that there are really similar knives out there. Now they're older, they were made in maybe 2014 or something. But the Gradation Cutlery number 92 Talon is very similar in the sense that it has this same frame and it has a single blade Wharncliffe. So that's something if you want one of these but can't get one because they are already sold out at KnivesShipFree and they get more expensive on the secondary, maybe look for a 92 Talon. Speaking of which, like I said, the 92 that I had also had green bone. So this green bone is what KnivesShipFree calls tractor green jigged bone. And I was actually pretty excited for it. They did a couple different handle materials. They did this tractor green. They did really, really nice ironwood. They did some giraffe bone. They did red and black micarta. And then they did blue sawcut bone. And the ironwood is really, really nice looking. But I considered getting a blue socket because Gradation Cutlery doesn't do a whole lot of blue knives, and they looked really great. Both these green and blue looked really great, I thought. Now, I was hoping for a lighter green. Now, I actually think that this is showing up pretty much black looking on the video, but you can see, hopefully you can see a little bit of the green. It's like a really, 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 really dark green here in pretty much most of the handle. So really, really dark. And I think, if I recall correctly, even darker than the green jig bone that was on the 92 Talon that I had. Now you can see at the edges where it transitions, there's some lighter color. Over here, some lighter color, and over here. That's what I was hoping for. If all of or most of this knife was that color, that nice light green color, that was really what I was looking for. But it's still a good looking knife, especially if you like darker green, like forest. I would almost call it like spruce green, something like that. The jigging itself is nicely done. You can see that it's not overly even like some Gradation Cutlery jigging can be, and it's you know, even enough that it looks intentionally done, which is a good thing. So I do think that the bone is nice, but I would have preferred it to be a little bit lighter. And to be honest, these green didn't sell out anywhere near as quickly as the blue. I actually went for a blue saw cut first, and wasn't able to get one. I had it in my cart and didn't get checked out in time, and it was already sold, so I got one of these. But I do think that it's good looking, and they had some nice options, especially the, like I say, the ironwood and the blue saw cut. Some people really like giraffe bone. I'm not a huge fan. It's kind of similar to mammoth ivory for me, but a couple different options, and they're all, you know, going to be more expensive on the secondary than they were from KnivesShipFree. They range from $140 up to around $200, I think, from KnivesShipFree. Now, as for the general construction of this, it's really well done. So you can see that there are no gaps at all there. It's flush, the back spring is flush at the full close, not quite flush at the half, and then flush again at the full open. No blade play, and well centered. The transitions between the covers and the bolsters are nice, and one thing that I do like about these is that they're bare end. So that means that there's not a bolster down here at the bottom, and that wasn't the case for the normal run of 92s that Gradation Cutlery did this time. It was the case, if I remember correctly, which I think I do, on the 92 Talons. So again, if you like a bare end, which sounds kind of ridiculous, but if you prefer that over the bolster on both sides on this pattern, you know, maybe keep an eye out for one of those 92 Talons. But I do like it. I think that it looks a little bit better. And, you know, nice transitions and everything. Now, this does have a tip that is not proud. I can't rightly say that it is proud of the frame, but it's pretty close. And honestly, I was slightly surprised by that because it seems like it wouldn't need to be. The reason I say that is because of this swell, back swell. I feel like I'm not calling that the right thing, but because of that, there isn't a big hump in the blade well at this spring pin. So there's not that big hump that you have to worry about for blade wrap. The other thing is, blades like Wharncliffe's and Sheepfoot's do tend to sit a little bit lower because they're straight, so there's not that belly that you have to worry about hitting the back spring. And then finally, you could lower this a good bit without covering Northwoods, which is one thing that I'm sure that they don't want to cover that up. Speaking of, real quick, I forgot to mention this, but one thing that I do really like about Northwoods knives, and some people really like their kind of rustic finishing, some people don't. For a while, I was not quite on board with it, but I do enjoy it. And what I mean by that is the flats here are not really polished. They're left almost, not quite, but almost what you might call a brute de forge finish, which is the scale from the heat treat is left on. You can see it's more so up here towards the tang than it is up here, and I think that's just from polishing the blade a little bit. The other kind of rusticness is that you can see the only stamp is USA. Now the only tang stamp is USA, so it doesn't have a model number like gradation cutlery knives normally would. It just says USA. And then one nice thing that I really like is that Northwoods is stamped. So you can see that that actually is stamped down into the blade rather than an etch. So I don't really actually have a knife out right now that you can see the etch. Maybe you can see it a little bit on this one. Yeah, you can see it a little bit on this one. The etch wears away, whereas a stamp won't wear away. So I do really like that. It's one of the things that I like about the Northwoods. And then finally, the thing that differentiates them also is this arrowhead shield. I like the arrowhead shield. Some people have criticized it or said that they should use others, but I think it's a great trademark for for KnivesShipFree. Instantly, you know that it's a Northwoods knife by the fact that it has this arrowhead shield. So I've kind of, I guess, come around more to the rustic finishing. I think that it has a unique and interesting and a nice different look to it as compared to the more fancy or polished look of most gradation cutlery, especially the Northwoods blades or knives. So I do, like I say, I think that this tip could probably sit lower. I'm not going to drop the tip on this one, but it's not a huge deal because of the shape of the spine here. Your finger doesn't catch or anything like that. Just I do think it could have sat a little bit lower. The pull on these, kind of a lot of people have mentioned that the pull on this specific run is a little bit light. So you can see that it's not super snappy to the close from half stop. But it does snap. The pull, I would say, is about a 4 out of 10. So a little bit lighter than a classic Victorinox Swiss Army knife, like the A-Lox models especially. A little bit lighter than that, but I think that it's okay. It's not a problem really for me. As you can see, it snaps open, snaps down to the half stop, and then it does snap closed even if you have to push it a little bit farther than you might on the average gradation cutlery made knife. Now I do think that that'll wear in a little bit. You can see that it's probably a little bit that it's, you know, the tang against the liners. So I do think that it'll get smoother through time, through use, through opening and closing it. And one nice thing is that this knife, although it has this long pull like most Northwoods, it can very easily be pinched. So you can just, you know, pinch it open with your thumb and forefinger, which is a nice touch. I like that. I like a knife, especially a single blade, to be pinchable. So I do think this would make a nice user if you were going to use it. I would probably, if I was going to use it, drop the tip slightly, but not a huge deal. Like I say, your finger doesn't catch, and it's a really well-made knife. Kind of a light snap closed from the half stop, but nice walk and talk open, very usable, practical pull at about a 4. No big gaps, nice transitions, nice bone, especially if you like really dark green, and the classic bone cliff blade shape that Northwoods is fond of using. So a nice knife, and I want to give you a couple size comparisons. So you already saw the 06, maybe not everybody's familiar with gradation cutlery's 06 pattern. Here's one that a lot of people are familiar with, the 15. So the 15 is 3.5 inches closed. So you can see that the 92 is a little bit longer. And then just because this 29 pattern is actually almost, not quite, but almost a reverse 92. Here's the 29. They did a run, well, the first run of these recently, so a lot of people have those. And then finally, the classic case full-size trapper. So you can see that the 92 is a good bit smaller. And then a couple modern knife comparisons. Here, I guess I don't need to show the blade too much, is a Rat 1, Ontario Rat 1. A lot of people have these. A lot of people like them. Great budget-friendly knife. And then finally, the Spyderco Native 5, one of the best EDC modern knives out there for sure. So it's a nice, size knife, easily pocketable. You get enough blade that you could definitely have this as your main EDC carry for sure. But it also is not too big to the point where it's, a boat anchor in your pocket or anything like that. So the Northwoods knives from KnivesShipFree, made by Great Eastern Cutlery, Ocoee Jack, is a nice knife, one that I'm glad to have gotten the chance to check out. I'm always, it's kind of fun, I think, trying to get in on the Northwoods runs, or drops, people call them, when they go up for sale on KnivesShipFree's website. Some people get really frustrated with it. I treat it like, hey, it's a little bit like a challenge to see if I can get one. If I do and I like it, that's great. I can keep it and enjoy it. If I get one and I don't love it, I can sell it. It's, easy to sell these. So I think it's just a fun little part of the knives, or the knife, and especially the traditional slip joint knife hobby or enthusiasm. So if you're interested in these, Northwoods has been doing more runs recently. Jay of KnivesShipFree said that they're doing as many as they can, or as many as GC, will do, I guess. So keep an eye out. Follow KnivesShipFree on Facebook and Instagram. Go on to their website and go to the Northwoods page and submit your email to get updates. Those are really the best ways to see when these are happening. They post on social media when the drops will be happening, and then you just basically have to be on the website right when they happen. Don't, not 15 minutes later, right then, a few minutes before, because they will sell out usually within 5 minutes. So one quick tip that I forgot on this run and didn't use, and maybe some people will be frustrated. I think sometimes people try to protect their knowledge about how to get these knives. I'm not really about that. I have been fortunate to be a fan of GC and things like that for longer than a lot of people, but not as long as a lot of other people. But because of that, I've gotten to know some of the better ways to get these knives that are harder to get. One of the ways is that it's quicker to use either Apple Pay or they say Google Pay. I actually haven't used Google Pay, but Apple Pay is quicker than using, putting your credit card in, certainly is probably the slowest way, or even than using PayPal for getting these knives. Because what can happen is you can put one in your cart, go to check out, and if you take too long to check out, someone else will have bought it before you were able to. They call it cart sniping, but it's just how the shopping carts on websites work. So just a quick tip: make sure you're there right at, if not a few minutes before the time that they drop, which you can find out that information on social media. And for me, I think maybe it's just that I have slow internet connections at my apartment and at my work on the Wi-Fi, but in the past, I've found that my phone has worked better than using a desktop. And definitely, try to use Apple or Google Pay if you can. So I hope that helps. I do think that the people who want to get these should be able to get them. So, try on the next run, and if you would like to, you can get one of these on the secondary. Or, like I say, maybe check out one of the older Great Eastern Cutlery 92 Talons. Either way, I think you'll like it, especially if you enjoy a nice classic Wharncliffe blade on a single blade slip joint pocket knife. So this is the Ocoee Jack from Northwoods, and it's one that I've been happy to get, and I hope you're able to get one if you'd like to get one. Don't forget, subscribe to my channel here, hit the bell for notifications so you get notified when I post new videos. Follow me on social media, especially Instagram and Facebook. It's where I post a lot at Knife Thoughts. And definitely check out my website, knifethoughts.com, where I post articles about knives like this pretty frequently as I can. And as always, don't forget to go out and do good.